So, yesterday I got this email, and I thought I'd share it with you, and then talk a little bit about what is being said, and also what isn't being said. So she says, I have been working on a project that I love. When I think about it with my mind, it makes no sense. There's so much against it. But looking back on how things succeed in my life, there's a certain feeling to it. And this feels like that. Like there's a destiny for it. But I really can't quite tell if it's not my ego. I don't feel attached to it. I could drop it in a heartbeat. But I do love working on it, and I wouldn't mind if it became my whole life. This is lovely when we have this feeling, isn't it? When something new comes along and we have this feeling about it. Where we allow confusion to enter in. Is when we set aside that spontaneity that says, I'm working on a project that I love, but when I think about it with my mind, it makes no sense. Simple solution. Don't think about it. What we feel when we enter into any new situation, and the overriding feeling is, oh, I love this. As we immediately touch deeply into the heart of our own being, this feeling of, oh, I love this, or this immediate happiness that comes, is already residing in us. It's lying there in a dormant state. Because happiness is our nature, isn't it? The place that we run into difficulty, and the place that's giving her some difficulty, is that when we feel this happiness, or this sense of love, this sense of joy around whatever it is that has just spontaneously arisen, seemingly out of nowhere, what we immediately do is take ownership of it. Oh, this is mine. I love this. I will have this. I will take this. I will make a life out of this. Not realizing that what happened was life itself gave us the opportunity to feel that love, to feel that happiness, and then to recognize what is the source of this happiness. If we don't do that, the mind becomes involved. Should I do this? Should I not do this? Should I play? Should I not play? Or it says, I love this so much, I think I'll grab it and hold onto it really, really tightly. And you see, she's just having this conversation with herself about how much she loves this, and by the end of the conversation, she's already projecting that she can make a life out of this. This is what it means to completely grasp or take hold of something that's happening in body, mind, or world, and then have it completely co-opted by the ego position, I am the body. Therefore, I have to take control of this. I have to do it this way. I have to do it that way. I can do this. I can build a life. This whole projection begins to happen. Now, are we in this here and now? Our practice, our sadhana, is to remain in this joyful happiness moment to moment to moment without attachment. Attachment in this case looks like this projection, oh, I can make a life out of this. Because as soon as that projection comes, now you have accepted not God's grace, not the truth of your own nature as happiness, but that you are somehow in control and you have to grab this and you have to build this and it has to become a life. Rather than it can be all of your happiness in this moment here and now. And then if you truly are not attached to it, if it does disappear, no harm, no foul. You are still in the spontaneous recognition of your own happiness. So our sadhana is twofold. It's both to remain in the here and now, but also, maybe more importantly, when this kind of activity is going on in the mind, to realize the ways in which the mind wants to project you out into the object, to put your happiness in the object. This is the tendency or the desire to grab the object, hold the object, build it into something, build a life out of it. This is the continued projection, misidentification of the happiness of your own being, the happiness of life itself, into the objects around you. And then that effort, this great enormous effort that it takes to maintain all of that and thinking it's yours when it is not. This joy, this happiness, has arisen spontaneously. From where, we don't know. And it will also go spontaneously, won't it? When? We don't know. So maybe she gets a lifetime out of it. Maybe she gets a couple of weeks out of it. Are you happy either way? If your direction, when you feel this joy and this love and this happiness, through your connection with another person, through a project, through an object of some sort, if your sadhana is to look for the source of the happiness, then you can use the object which has been sent to you by the Supreme for its true purpose, which is for you to understand its source. Not for you to continue to project it outward and hope that like everything else in your life in the past, hope that if you put enough energy and enough juice into it and enough love into it and enough whatever into it, whatever your case is, that what will happen is you will somehow become happy through that object. But sadhana is about the recognition that the happiness is inherent in being, consciousness, and bliss. So whether we are experiencing difficulty, pain in the body, sadness, or we are experiencing bliss, joy, love for some object or person, when our sadhana is to look for the source, who is this that is aware? What is aware here? Who am I? What is the source of happiness? Where is this coming from? We can do two things. We can respond spontaneously in the moment toward the object. This is the destiny part, because if it is your destiny, then what is the definition of destiny? Destiny is you don't need to grab it. Destiny is you can't avoid it, isn't it? So if it's your destiny, you needn't do anything about that. Keep your attention on the heart of being. Let destiny take care of it. Trust what's happening in your own life. But also understand that the source of whatever you're experiencing comes from deep within your own being. And if you keep your attention, keep your heart open, keep the attention turning back to this question, whose happiness is this? What is the source of this experience that I'm having? Then you open your heart in the space of your own experience for whatever wants to happen. Whether it becomes your whole life from that moment on, or whether it falls apart in 6 months or a year or a week, it makes no difference. Where you are resting is in the heart of being. So, while noticing what's rising on the screen of awareness, remember to notice without attachment. And if you feel that you must follow a desire, then follow the desire that comes from the heart. So she says this right in the beginning. This feels like this is coming straight out of my heart. This is coming directly out of love, and I love this project. Don't confuse that spontaneous arising with whatever's going on in the mind. The mind piece is maybe I can make a life out of this and projecting it out 30 years. That's the mind piece. Stay here. Stay in the heart of being. Let the joy of your own recognition dance through whatever it is you are doing, but do it without ego and without attachment. Surrender the ego and dance the dance. The dance is coming from the heart. The ego is the mind's story about it. So this is a razor's edge, isn't it? This is like walking along the edge of a sword. But this is a description that we often hear in spiritual life, is that we're always walking along the edge of a sword. And all we are doing when we read something or we ask a question like this in satsang is we are saying, what are we doing here now? The only answer that's really true is for one person, the answer is go a little bit left. And for the next person, the same question, the answer is go a little bit right. And we are always just balancing on this razor's edge. Where we will get caught is in this projection. This projection that maybe I could do this for my life, maybe this is a career path, maybe this person is the love of my life, whatever it is. The place we end up in difficulty is in that kind of thinking, because this thinking takes us out of the here and now. Understand that what was created by life itself, which was brought to you and put in your lap, here, enjoy this. As soon as you take ownership of it, you begin to suffer around it. You begin to protect it, defend it, establish it, build something out of it, projecting out months, years out into the future. When the only moment you have where happiness is true is this one. So use everything to look back into the source of happiness and then dance whatever dance is there. You cannot dance a dance which is not your destiny. So if you find yourself dancing, fine. Enjoy. Would you like to add anything to that? Did your question get answered? The only destiny we have is in this moment here now. This moment is our destiny. Be fully present here. Live in this moment and enjoy the unfolding of whatever's here. And if it's not very pleasant, stay with it. It's a state. It will pass. Happiness is not a state. Happiness, love, compassion, these are not states of mind. They are your nature. They are always there when you step past the mind, step past the ego. Even the most exalted mind states come to an end. Some of you know this. You've had profound experiences in your lives in exalted states. But Vedanta is very clear. Vedanta has this way of pointing out that even the life of the gods and the demigods and all of the saints and sages eventually come to an end. It's only awareness itself as being, consciousness, and bliss, which remains eternally. This is why it's referred to as reality. So even the exalted states of the gods and goddesses, though they may last for eons, come to an end. This is very clear in all of the scriptures. So though you have had, maybe are continuing to have, exalted experiences in your sadhana, one day they will come to an end. Prepare for that moment by recognizing that which is aware here, now, through all the sensations of the body, seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, thinking, through all of the experiences that you have in your life with people in the world, through all of the dreams and schemes that you have. Don't be afraid to dance your dance, but understand that only reality, as being, consciousness, and bliss remains. Everything else will go. If you put your happiness in it, you will suffer. Even you have 10,000 years of exalted happiness as a god or goddess. When it's gone, you will suffer. Know yourself to be that which is aware, here now, as the Supreme. let the body-mind do whatever it does. Take no interest in it. And don't be afraid to dance when you have the opportunity. I can say this especially for you, Holly, because I know how much you love to dance. So don't be afraid to dance. Just don't be attached to it.
Rishiji, I just felt to share what you said about dancing, that when you're very active in some ways, and there are very sometimes beautiful experiences or emotions happening or interactions, and something starts to get attached. There was an insight happening that as beautiful as it is, there's a feeling that it's still happening on the surface, that something is not as deep as it can be just to fully sit and be focused on the heart and be dissolved and dive deeper. And at times there's a contrast happening because there's a yearning to dedicate more time to this depth, which is not related to the outside happening. But there's
Yes.
still commitments and activities happening, and there's another part of like this Shakti part wanting to participate and not to miss anything, and sometimes it does clash. So this balance is there's no one balancing anything, but
Very good.
still some prayers coming like every day, not to be distracted too much, or just to always take this time again to be centered, and that this deepening and grounding just continues no matter how much time one can take during the day to sit and to look, and the inquiry is going on even when being active,
Yes.
but not to be lost in the outside appearances.
Yes, but in some ways, I think this takes us back to this, to understanding a little bit about the nature of what we called earlier destiny, You know, there's a certain well, to continue with the theme, there's a certain dance that is destined, we can say, to happen when we take this body, this particular body, not any body, this body. So each of you, each of us has taken a body. There is a particular, maybe known to us, but usually not, dance which needs to happen and does happen as a consequence of the body being taken, the lessons that need to be learned. There's a certain dance which is going to happen. And this dance is going to happen whether we recognize I am that or not. This is why it's often said that to the ordinary person, the sage looks like an ordinary person. The sage may be doing exactly the same things as some ordinary person is doing, and so will be mistaken for an ordinary person. The difference is the sage, being awake to the nature of reality, has no interest in the dance of the body-mind. The ordinary person, or jiva, we say, the unrealized person, undergoing the same experience, is suffering intently through the dance. Not possessing the detachment of the truth. Whatever is the destiny of the jiva, the unrealized person, there is attachment, there is grasping, there is denial, there is pushing away. But for the jnani, for the sage who is liberated, the dance of the body has no effect because there is no attachment. Destiny plays out only in the body. For the sage, there's no interest. What one is liberated from is the mind. If that were not the case, if somehow you were liberated from the body through recognition, then what would be a natural extension of that liberation would be that the body would die. But this is not the case. Liberation for the Jivan Mukta or Jivan Mukti is happening in the body. So the liberation is not from the body itself, but rather from the mind. So this means that the body is going to live out its destiny no matter what. The longer you identify with the body, the longer you suffer from identification with the mind. the longer it will take for you to realize the nature of your being as consciousness and bliss. The body is going to live out its destiny. This is called prarabdha karma. This is the karma associated only with the body, and this karma does not bind the sage. The sage is not aware of this karma at all. The body is just living it out. So I encourage you to remind yourself that there are not two of you. There is not one who is dancing and caught up in that dance, and one who is pulling away and going into deep silence again. This is simply an appearance in this moment. It's not true. You are always the self. This self, referred to sometimes as being consciousness, I speak about it that way, can be referred to as God, can be referred to as Brahman. That which is the foundation of all of this is one. So when the mind is playing this game around, oh, I am too busy, I have to stop, I have to... You can do that. It's not a problem. The support that you offer yourself in terms of giving yourself a quiet space or time away and all of that is a beautiful thing. But it's not a prerequisite to you understanding you are free, regardless of what the body is doing, regardless of what the mind is doing, regardless of how you're feeling in the heart, in your relationship, in your job, in your life. All of that is related to the prarabdha karma of the body. You are already free. Know yourself to be this freedom under all circumstances. If you know this, you don't need to pull away from your activity and put yourself in a closet somewhere or a cave. If you know this, you will simply dance until the dance stops, because the dance is a state. If you know yourself to be happy, happiness, if you know yourself to be free, leave the body alone. Don't trouble yourself. Don't trouble the body. You know, you can want to go into silence and into a cave. You can want to do that with all your heart. And maybe you'll end up in a cave sometime. But if you don't, will you suffer? The cave that I'm speaking about is the cave of the heart. Put your attention there gently, and don't believe yourself to be trapped. Don't believe yourself to be limited. It is the body-mind which has the expression of limitation. There's no doubt about this. The body is born, it comes into being, it suffers, it dies, it gets sick. This is the nature of the body-mind complex. You can strengthen it, you can eat properly, you can exercise, you can keep yourself strong, you can take vitamins, you can do all of the things that are necessary to keep the body strong and healthy for the purpose of sadhana, with the full knowledge that that's not going to stop it from dying. The body is coming and going. What is not coming and going? This is your question. Remember that the objects are objects. Whatever the dances you're doing, this is an object. You are not an object. You are this, which is aware. In this moment, being, consciousness, and bliss. You are the self. Everything else, you cannot hold on to it anyway, so stop trying. You're wasting your energy. Another way of maybe asking yourself this, Atma, is just to ask yourself, whose dance is this anyway? You see, this is, as long as I believe this is my dance, I am going to suffer over it. But as soon as I acknowledge this is the dance of the Supreme, now I can dance anywhere, any place, in any situation. And when that dance is finished for that time, it will go away. I don't need to be controlling it. I don't need to be thinking about it. I don't need to be regulating how I use my energy. I don't need to be withdrawing from things and pushing myself into things. I can simply understand that what is here is the dance which consciousness has established for itself through this body-mind. That has nothing to do with yourself as truth. That is just the dance. Consciousness moves and then becomes still. We, as body minds, experience consciousness itself through the perception of space-time. So we seem to be moving in some way. But if we ask the question, what is it that does not move? We can withdraw attention from the perceptions of space-time and see consciousness, the self, awareness itself, in its pristine state, in its nakedness. And in this moment, we see that what appears to be the movement of consciousness in space-time is simply the self in its active phase. Then we have the recognition, all of this is myself, all of this is Brahman, all of this is the Supreme. So why should I not dance? Whose dance is it anyway? So begin to notice, if you have this kind of experience that Atma is describing here, where you kind of go out and come in and go out and come in, begin to notice at any given moment in your life over a period of time, you will begin to see that there is some sense of a natural rhythm about how this happens. And it actually can happen quite naturally until you engage the mind with it and start to struggle with it. Now you want when the movement is there energetically, you want it to be quiet. You want it to be still. So now you struggle with that. Then suddenly everything disappears from your life for a couple of weeks. Everybody goes away, you get sick, whatever. And suddenly you got no movement at all. And now you're over here on the bed wishing you could get all this energy up and get this activity going. So you're always fighting with what is there. But if you understand and if you watch, pay attention to the natural rhythms of your own experience, whether those rhythms are short throughout the day, like a biorhythm, or whether they're long. Some of us have a longer cycle where there are periods of intense activity or energy followed by states of deep silence for longer periods of time. So that may happen over weeks or months. But if you are paying attention, you begin to notice what the natural cycles of your own being consciousness are. Then you can put yourself into that natural rhythm and stop struggling with it. So that when there is a time where you are busy and you are dancing, you are busy and you are dancing, knowing that very soon the bottom will fall out of all of that and you will be very still and very quiet. Because both are inherent in being consciousness. They are not mutually exclusive, and they cannot be regulated by a mind. The mind is not there to regulate being consciousness. So you can give up this activity. Rest in the knowledge that if you are silent in this moment, in another moment you will not be. If you are busy and engaged at this moment, in another moment you won't be. Whose life is it anyway? Surrender to the life you have. If you do this, you'll find that by putting yourself in alignment with the life you have, somehow that life that you are trying to create happens organically, happens on its own, without a lot of struggle, without a lot of effort, because you put yourself in alignment with what is true for you in this life. And let the self do the creating. So are we finished then? Everyone is free? Of course. All right, then I wish you all well. Hope you have a wonderful day or evening or whatever it is where you are. Always a joy to be with you. Thank you for sharing this life. Hari Om Tat Sat. See you next time.